We'll do introductions. John, you want to start?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is John Rathman. I'm the Clear Creek Watershed Coordinator.
I'm Ben Clark from City of Iowa City.
I'm Megan Foster, the mayor of Coralville.
It's me, sorry. John Gehring, Iowa County Supervisor.
I'm Valerie Becker. I'm with the University of Iowa Center for Evaluation and Assessment.
Scott Larson, City Engineer for Coralville. Matt McAndrew, MB Water.
You want to do the phone introductions?
Yeah, can
Why
the-
don't you just list them?
the folks on the, well, yeah, okay, I'll list everybody that I have down for the phone and you can respond. And if there's other folks on the phone that I don't have listed, please introduce yourself. First, I have Al Havens with the City of Tiffin. Then I have Casey Hutchinson with Johnson County. Jeff Gertz with the IEDA. Jennifer Fensel with ECI-COG. Do we have anybody else?
All right, and welcome everybody. First, yeah, we want to welcome the new mayor of Coralville. I mean, at least the last one, I was kind of like his mini-me, and it's not going to work out with you and I that way. So, well, welcome to the board. We're excited to have you here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion.
Would, actually, before we do that, did everybody get the email about the funding formula that I sent out kind of late this morning?
I did.
Yeah. And we can either add that to this agenda, or I can add it to the agenda at our next meeting
Great.
for further discussion and possible voting.
Yeah, we probably better put it on the next agenda.
Next agenda? I will do that.
We need a second for the agenda still.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval. Everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from October. If there's any additions or corrections, please state them.
So I would make a motion to approve those.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. This is critical. Election of officers. How you doing, Megan?
I'm doing well.
How would you like to be nominated to be the chairman?
I just got here.
You just said you were doing well.
I've been here 5 minutes.
I know. I know. You answered the first question correctly.
I mean,
And if you're scared, that's fine too. I mean, Tracy may do it. She's not here, and we can throw her under the bus, because when you don't show up, sometimes you get elected chair.
how about we do that?
Okay. So are you throwing her under the bus, or am I?
You are.
Okay.
Throw her under.
Please put in the minutes that Tracy, I am throwing you under the bus. I nominate Tracy Mulcahy for chairman of the board. Is there,
Second, I'll second that.
okay.
I will second that.
Is there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Tracy for the chairperson?
Aye.
All those, aye.
Aye. Aye, that's right.
All those opposed, same sign. She is now the chairman. So, let me redo this. Mayor Foster, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
I nominate you to be the vice chairperson.
Okay, I accept.
Ben, would you like to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And you get to lead the meeting now because the chairman's not here.
Oh, jeez. I barely
See how
know
I
how
did-
to run
do you
the
see-
other meeting.
Do you see how I did that?
That was sneaky.
I mean, it wasn't really sneaky. I just
Yeah,
like
I
ran over you full steam.
Sure, okay.
But we will help you along. It's not a big
Great.
deal. This is a very, very good board to work with.
You bet, you bet. Okay.
Megan, I think somebody else may have joined.
Oh, okay. Do we have someone else on the phone? Don't be shy.
Hi, everyone. This is Catherine DeLong with Iowa State Extension.
Perfect.
Hi,
Welcome.
welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
We are on item number 3, practice implementation. John, would you
No,
like?
wait.
Oh,
We
did
gotta,
skip?
we gotta elect the secretary treasurer.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Okay. So who do we have?
Casey, are you staying there?
Did you ask if I'm staying there?
Yeah.
I don't care.
So I will nominate Casey Hutchinson to be secretary treasurer.
I second that.
Yes.
You,
Okay.
Call for the vote.
All in favor, say aye.
aye.
All opposed?
Woohoo, congratulations, Casey.
Motion.
Thank you.
Okay, director terms. Renewals, new directors. Do we have anybody rotating?
I guess we have to see. Does anybody know what the soil and water can, obviously, Al, you are on for, till the 24,
Okay,
is that right?
if you say so. I've been on it since the start, so I guess.
Well, it doesn't, I mean, they're elected by their boards, aren't they, John?
Right,
This isn't us electing them.
right. And Jody Bailey said she would be the representative for Johnson County Soil and Water Conservation District for the next term.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept
The slate?
the slate.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
All right. Motion carries. Okay, now we can move on to item number 3, practice implementation with John. Give us,
All right. So, is your flash drive plugged in? No. All right. So is it okay if I just pull that out? Oh, yeah. All right. It's the cold weather freeze.
Yeah, let's play Matt instead.
Oh. I don't want to do that.
James, go ahead and click on that.
Click on configure.
Yeah, go ahead and click on that.
There we go. That's what I expected it to do.
You're doing phenomenal.
oh, thank you.
Just want you to know.
All right, so I'm going to do this a little bit in reverse of what's on the agenda. This is bid package 7. And the caveat for bid package 7 is I don't know if we'll be able to fund all of these practices, but I'm going to present all of them as if we're able to. And the reason that we may not be able to fund them all is the last 3 bid packages were more than we expected them to be because of supply chain shortages and higher than anticipated costs. So that's the map of the watershed, which I think everybody's used to seeing. This is the location of the 5 different projects. We have one project for several and multiple projects or multiple practices for some of these folks. The farthest east and south, which would be to the far right and bottom, is Weber, which is a pond project or practice. Directly north and, well, I guess north and a little bit west is Facelt, which is a floodplain reconnection, prairie restoration, or prairie planting to be more accurate, and rock shoot or grade stabilization. Then going to the west further along, furthest north and west is Giras. That's a water and sediment control basin. And then south and a little bit east from there is Giras again, a different Giras. I believe they pronounce their last name Gyrus.
Yep.
Those are 2 water and sediment control basins. And then south and the furthest west is Woody, which is a pond practice. And these are a little scattered than they have been in the past because these are just kind of the last of the groupings that we had. And this kind of cleans everybody up. Jarrett Gyrus is the one that's, well, let's see, I want to back up here. He's the one in the, just to the south and east of Oxford. That's a water and sediment control basin. There are actually 2 of them. The updated estimated cost is $26,000 for those 2. Weber, which is the one that was furthest to the east and south, that's the pond project. That's $40,500. Larry Gyrus, which was to the west of Oxford, that's a single water and sediment control basin. That is estimated at $16,000. Woody, which was the furthest west and south, is a pond, and that's also estimated at $40,500. And then Buffalo Creek Development, which is within Tiffin city limits, that's the floodplain restoration, the prairie planting, and rock shoot, not actually riffle. That's a typographical error on my part. That's $129,000. So the grand total for these estimated projects is $252,000. If the projects all came in at that price, we would have left over about $37,000, which is cutting it pretty close in my opinion. You'll see in my financial report that we've got, with all of our IWA project funds, left over about $136,000. We have EPA funding from another source, which is about $118,000. And we also have a bill left over, I shouldn't say a bill left over. We have an amount for the engineer to finish everything up. I believe that was about $200,000. So that's where I came up with the $37,000 amount. Is that clear? It's kind of circuitous. I'm sorry about that. So our IWA project funding will take us most of the way there, but the fact that an EPA grant, which is through the Flood Center, they're going to pay about $118,000 on some of these projects, so that's what helps us pay for all of the projects, and give us a little bit left over. We're going to have a base bid of a couple of the Gyrus projects, and then the Weber, Woody, and Buffalo Creek development. Those are all going to be add-ons, so that we'll be able to kind of get this down as close as possible to our funding. So let's go to the practices. This is the Gyrus project that is south and a little bit east of Oxford, and the larger red portion is the bottom side of these water and sediment control basins. The shorter side is the upstream side. So this hill goes kind of up toward the top left corner of the sheet, and the water that will be held back during rainstorms is to the bottom right-hand corner of the sheet. Can you understand that? Okay. The next one is pond, the Weber Pond, which is over by 280. It's the southern and easternmost project. The home to the right of the line drawings is the landowner, and this is in a wooded area. The pond, when it's completed, will be about a third of an acre, with temporary storage of about 2/3 of an acre feet. And an acre foot is roughly a football field without the end zones, about a foot deep in water. This is the other Gyrus project. This is to the west of Oxford. The dotted line is the drainage area for this, and you can see a dark line that goes through the center of that water and sediment control basin. That's the crown or crest of it, and to the left is where the water is going to be stored temporarily, and to the right is where most of the structure is going to be, and that'll be the dry side. This is the Woody project. It's a pond. The house is to the north and a little bit east of where this pond is. They own all of the surrounding land. Some of it, actually most of it's row crop production, but actually the part where the pond is going is currently fallow. This pond will be about 0.7 acres for the pool and almost 2 acres foot for temporary storage. This is the project that's within the Tiffin city limits. That's a floodplain restoration where we're going to widen out where the creek flows through, so that we'll have more flood storage. And then that's the red hatching. The blue hatching is where we'll have a prairie planting. And this is an interesting project because the northwest and the southeast corners of the property will be housing development. So they'll be able to utilize the prairie area as a place to walk dogs and just walk around in the mornings or the evenings. They had originally approached us to see if they could do a pond, but I felt that the pond was probably not going to work out very well because they have a really large drainage area, because this is a pretty large tributary to Clear Creek. That's Buffalo Creek. And the creek itself is pretty well in size, so it's pretty well separated from the current floodplain. So we'll be able to get some more storage by creating a small floodplain for this project.
Where is that located, John? Northeast, west?
It's north of downtown Tiffin. Do you folks have any questions about those? All right. I will close out of this and go to my other report.
Hey, John,
Yes.
this is Jeff Geertz. So are all the projects, or will all the projects be bid out then, or are there other bids to come?
This will be the last project, or last bid package.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, and the engineer's working on getting that all separated out so we can get this in line as soon as possible.
On those ponds, John,
Yeah.
do the landowners control the watershed? Or do they have ownership of the watershed around the ponds?
Not all of the land, no, but they have ownership of where the pond and the structure is. The one exception to that is the Weber property where there's a tiny corner measured in square feet that if the water gets to the top of the dam, it would go onto another person's property, so they have to get an easement signed.
Is there a plan for landscaping around those ponds? Is there gonna be native prairie or?
There's not a prairie for either of those ponds. For the Weber pond, it's gonna be woods and some lawn grass. And for the Woody pond, there is existing vegetation. It's not prairie, though. Okay, so for the rest of my report, bid packages 4 and 5, which were bid out last fall, those are going to be constructed this winter and early spring. One of the two is in Johnson County and the other one is in Iowa County. Bid package 6, which is in Coralville here, the pre-construction meeting was scheduled for January 14th, but we rescheduled because of weather and I was ill at the time. Bid package 7 is what I just went over. We're in the process of getting that scheduled to get on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors meeting schedule. And because we're splitting it out so that we've got ads for different practices, we should be able to spend down most all of our money with a little bit of cushion for possible overruns on unknown factors. Let's see. There is a possibility that if we're unable to fund that Buffalo Creek project, we might be able to get that funded through the Iowa Infrastructure Fund. Our engineer is looking into some information that I need to send that in. The SIPI project, which was part of bid package number 1, we had some seating problems, and we've got an estimate that we accepted for getting that completed. That will get done this late spring. Currently, we have 34 practices installed, and we're treating just 959 acres, temporarily holding back 45.35 acre-feet of stormwater. Those practices consist of 11 ponds, 3 grade stabilizations, 1 is a dry pond, 2 are rock chutes. We have 10 water and sediment control basins, 1 wetland, which is a fringe wetland around a pond, and 9 grassed waterways. So our financials, this is for the Iowa Watershed Approach financials. Our grant share was just shy of $3 million. Our engineering is just shy of $860,000. Archaeology was $60,000. There was an additional administrative costs for East Central Iowa Council of Governments. That was $80,000. And through the bid packages that we have bid, and 2 of which we are substantially finished with, one is finalized, we would be at $363,880. And the last one, as I just showed you, bid package 7, that's estimated to be at $252,000 with the landowner cost share of $20,000. That would leave us a balance of $131,000, 907. That added up with the $118,000 from the EPA funding through the flood center gets us to $248,000, and the engineering bid is somewhat less, I think $39,000 less than that. So we're going to be spending pretty much this whole bit, the entire amount that we received from the Iowa Watershed approach. And I've been doing a lot of scratching my head over spreadsheets to get that to come out as close as we can. The other grant that we've got, that's the Iowa Partners for Conservation grant. So far we have, from our local match, we've received $23,272.25. That's of the promised amount for the first year of $53,391.25. So we've got a few people that have yet to send in their money, but we'll get that taken care of. Our first report is going to be due in April, and we have not spent any funds to date from that grant funding. So continuing on, we'll be doing bidding, construction, water sampling will begin again in March of this year, and other Iowa Partner for Conservation grant work as time allows. Still, our main focus is the IWA project and getting that wrapped up. That's all I have.
Awesome, thank you. Does anybody have any questions, any other questions or comments before we move on? All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, next item, partner updates. The University of Iowa Center for Evaluation and Assessment. Valerie, you're up.
So my apologies to everybody on the phone. Many of you have gotten copies of the slides, but if you would like them, either let me know or let John know what we've got.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send them out.
Let's see. So many of you have, I've met many of you already, but for those of you either in person or on the phone who haven't met me, I am Valerie Decker. I work with the University of Iowa Center for Evaluation and Assessment. We're a center funded in the University of Iowa's College of Education that are settled in the College of Education, and basically our role is we do program evaluation work on grants and contracts. So we were written into the Iowa Watershed Approach proposal to help just sort of provide supplemental information about what's happening in this project, how it's going, to check in with the influencers that are making things happen in this project, so the board chairs, the board members, the staff that are working on it. Hopefully this spring, the landowners that have participated in it, we're going to be sending them a survey I'm pretty excited about. And so, you know, there's teams on this project. I mean, this project is done with so many partners. There's partners that are doing all of the, you know, reporting to HUD, the financial stuff, all of that really complicated tracking. There's people who are doing all of the modeling to try to understand what all of this is going to have as an impact on our landscape after all of this money is spent, as we're sort of drawing ourselves down to thousands of dollars, right? But our role in the project is to really try to get a sense from the people in the project what seems most important about it, or what totally didn't work, or how the different groups are operating differently. And so we kind of have like a people focus in the work that we do. And so I was looking it up, and I was kind of surprised to see last July we invited the board members from this WMA to participate. I'm going to take off my mask if that's okay. I'm realizing I'm getting winded. Forgot it was on. To complete a survey about sort of looking back over the last 5 years and just sort of the accomplishments, reflections, perspectives, whatever. And so we wanted to share some of those preliminary findings, specifically about what the people who responded to your survey had to say about your WMA, but also to sort of put it in the context of what the other WMAs had to say, because we've had some interest in kind of getting, not like direct comparison, but to sort of be able to situate each of the WMAs among the other WMAs. So I basically have just kind of a taste of some data for you. I'm going to go through, I think I get to skip ahead to get to skip ahead a few slides. So yeah, we're going to look kind of at the last 5 years, look at the sort of what we learned about IWA, sort of as a taste holistically, and then some things that I can maybe give you all about your own WMA that could potentially be helpful as you're starting to move forward into sort of this new phase after the Iowa Watershed approach is over. And then also a pretty please at the very end, asking if you would do the second half of the survey, which is going to look forward. So I can mention a couple of words about that at the very end. Let's see. As much as I love talking to people, I get a little nervous whenever so I'm gonna remind myself with my notes every once in a while. So here's our survey participation. I want everybody to just be aware of the numbers as we go into this. So for all of the WMAs, we had about 56 respondents from across all of the IWA WMA boards. That was about a 25% response rate. So anytime I talk about all of the WMAs, it's the board members who responded to the survey, not everyone. And for the most part, the people who responded to the survey, both in Clear Creek and also across the board, were the people who have been highly involved for at least 2 years. So they're the people who are frequently coming to meetings and are attending with some regularity, or they're frequently attending meetings and have been attending meetings for a while. So the response rate for the group of people who at least responded to one question for your watershed is 45%, which sounds awesome. It's higher than the overall. But what I want you all to keep in mind is that that is 5 or 4 people. So when you see 25%, it's 1 person. So I use percents to be able to do that comparison piece that we were asking about, but I'm gonna make sure that that's always at front and center, that's, whenever you see, 75% of something, that is still only 3 people. And so it is my duty and obligation as a data person to tell you that over and over the course of this presentation. So the first piece that I would love to be able to share with you all is kind of just some overall sense of the funded pieces and the focus areas of the Iowa Watershed approach. So the funded elements of the Iowa Watershed approach, sort of from the WMA perspective, were implementation funds, for a coordinator, funding to do a watershed plan, and then grant administration support. And overwhelmingly, that was seen as either important or very important or moderately important across the board. And so that's really strong support for the model that we used for the Iowa Watershed approach, that the board members thought that was particularly important. Here we have how satisfied board members were with their WMA's work in each of these areas. So we got flood mitigation, water quality, and soil health. Board members were largely satisfied with their WMA's focus on flood mitigation, which makes sense because IWA was designed to be a flood first program. It was flood first, water quality second, and then soil health has actually been emergent. It's been something that we've heard, it's an area of interest from some of the boards, and so that wasn't necessarily one of the emphases of IWA. And so makes sense. This stair step makes sense as you look at it, given the purposes of IWA. My next slide is just to orient you, because I'm about to change how I'm showing you the data. So this is an example. This is not any of the questions y'all were asked. But so in order to sort of orient you proportionally to the other WMAs, the top bar is going to be Clear Creek. So sample watershed is Clear Creek. It's going to say the number of people who responded to the question, and then all of the other WMAs with a similar breakdown. So the percents are going to be proportionally comparable, but the numbers are not. Just want to, again, disclaimer, the data's weird, but hopefully useful. The first one is a really, really easy one to interpret. Satisfaction with the overall accomplishments of the WMA, 100% satisfied. So congratulations. That was not the data that we saw in all of the watersheds. So as you can see from the sort of more mixed groups below. So I just wanted to you can all kind of give yourselves a pat on the back that you're sort of all in agreement that everything that's happening is, what you wanted to happen and what you expected to happen. Related to collaboration, and I'm going to kind of zip through the next two because I think that the juicy stuff is the written responses, but you're going to see more support of that. So related to collaborations, again, in Clear Creek, there was pretty high satisfaction with collaboration with partners and collaboration with other members of the WMA. And then with regard to the practices on the ground, satisfaction with landowner buy-in, 100%. Y'all had interested landowners. You were able to get those landowners to participate. John worked his butt off, but you got it done. And then the satisfaction with the BMPs, there was sort of mixed, but that was a complicated set of items. But again, neutral positive is a good sign that people are generally satisfied with how everything was working out. Next, I want to, so we asked you several questions in that survey to respond with your own answers. And it would take me an hour to get through all of the juicy responses that I got from that. So I'm going to give you kind of a taste of 3 of the questions for the sake of time. And what you're going to see, and I'll sort of try to be clear as I go, is a staging. So first I'm going to show you the total percents of each response within a category of written response for all of the WMAs. And then I'm going to show you a slide where in blue, it's going to highlight the categories that came up in the Clear Creek responses. And then we can zoom in so we can see how many people actually said each response from within Clear Creek, because as we know, the percents are only kind of useful. So the first one, what did board members describe as the major successes? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of talk about the top 3 for the sake of time, but what I do want to point out to you is that every category on here, and I think you all have all of these slides, was mentioned by at least 2 board members in any of the WMAs. So if something was only mentioned, if a category was only mentioned by 1 board member in any of the WMAs, it didn't make the list because it wouldn't have fit on the slide. But implementing projects in the watershed, so what John was presenting with the designs and the construction and all of that, that was seen as the primary success of this project. Having a watershed plan, having that guiding document, that 20-year document that you all created to help the watershed make decisions, that was the second success. And then having a project coordinator on the ground selling practices was seen as sort of the third highest success there. And then the next slide, in blue, we see kind of how Clear Creek sort of fits in there. So, those top 2 showed up in some of the comments, and then there's kind of a mix of other comments, which I'll go into in the next slide. So the categories of success identified for your watershed, implementing projects was the top one, so it was the top one for all, but it was also the top one for you guys. Other successes, the watershed plan, having public attention and outreach efforts was seen as a success. And then sort of work related to water quality and flooding as another success. So All of these are good things. All of them are in line with the WMA, showing that you're moving forward. So similar question, but related to challenges. So what did board members determine were the major challenges? So I want to kind of highlight the top 4 because that's kind of where we have the double-digit percents. Funding is a big challenge. Nobody's surprised by that. Securing landowners, that was luckily not an issue in your watershed, it seems, but in some of the watersheds it was. Collaboration within the WMA, again, we didn't really see that in your data, but it showed up in some of the others. And then coalition and board member engagement and buy-in. So that's the participation on the board, potentially as a challenge. Here we see sort of where it situates. The only thing I want to say on this slide is that each of those 20% is one person. So all of the challenges identified were only identified by one person. That doesn't make them not real, but there's not like a critical mass around one of them. It's something you can work through. It's not something that everybody was like, oh, this is our problem. And so those challenges were, securing funding for a project coordinator. Luckily, you've secured some funding to keep John on for a bit longer, so fantastic. That challenge, this was done in July, so you didn't have that funding at the time. Board engagement, decision making. That was a comment just related to, having maybe richer discussions around some of the issues of the WMA instead of sort of somebody's, I guess I won't elaborate, but just having more of that be interactive and thoughtful discussion around some of the decisions. COVID-19, unavoidable. And a learning curve, which I loved this comment. It almost doesn't feel like a challenge, but like having to learn more about the territory. That was, challenging for somebody who sort of came in, that was new to this world, to the watershed world, and learning how to walk the walk, talk the talk, and be able to make decisions there. Last one I wanted to highlight was lessons learned. I loved this question. It was so fun to analyze. I got a variety of responses. I got all sorts of responses to this, and I had a really hard time coming up with categories because everybody gave me really fascinating data. But the top 2 were about lessons learned about collaboration. Those comments across all the watersheds were, either what totally worked in collaboration, what was awesome about collaboration, why collaboration is important, but also what doesn't work about collaboration, and maybe what not to do. So that'll be a lot richer in our future report that we write that will be available just maybe a little time. And then a code I was calling water resources information, which is people sharing the different things that they learned about, like working in a watershed and working on flooding and working in water quality. I thought that was just really fun, and I was like, I learned that too, and so that was really cool to see how many people reported learning that kind of thing. Again, here's where the Clear Creek responses sort of situated within. There was quite a mix. And so the categories of lessons learned here specifically for Clear Creek were about BMPs, so the practices that actually went on the ground, learning what they are and what they do. Again, that water resources information. And then the last one I wanted to mention is just that connectivity between upstream and downstream neighbors, right? Like, I think somebody said, like, learning more about what happens upstream and how that water affects us. And then somebody else said something about, like, the downstream neighbors want to collaborate with us because it's, sort of for the good of all. And so that connectivity within the watershed, I think, was a really cool lesson learned that emerged from the data. So I just threw like a whole bunch of information at you all. Here's the summary slide. So basically, the funded elements of IWA were considered important by the board members, and board members were largely satisfied with their WMA's emphasis on flood mitigation. Clear Creek was largely satisfied with their accomplishments, collaboration, and practices. Y'all made my presentation very easy. Successes, implementing projects, the watershed plan, public attention and outreach, impacts on water quality and quantity. Just mentioned all the challenges were identified by individuals. And lessons learned were usually about practices, water resources, information, and connections among those community partners. So my last slide is just an invitation to you all to maybe watch your email next Monday or Tuesday. I'll have the second half of the survey that looks forward, and then all of the data. So this is sort of like the preliminary report of findings, and all of the data will be shared. Our role on the Iowa Watershed Approach project ends in July. So by July, there'll be a master report. Our reports are making their way onto the Iowa Watershed Approach website. So all of that information will be made available to the WMAs so that hopefully it can be useful. So that's what I have for you. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, John has my email, so he knows how to track me now.
Any questions or comments or discussion?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Valerie. Okay. Next item, announcements and events.
Yeah, I've got actually news on the water conference. It's been postponed till fall because of the COVID surge. I just got that email this morning or yesterday.
Okay, do they have a date yet for that?
Not yet, no. I-
Is
I
it
s-
still going to be in Dubuque?
I assume it will still be in Dubuque, but they haven't really said one way or the other.
Okay. All
So.
right. Any other announcements from anyone? Updates? All right. Public comments. It doesn't appear that we have any public comments. Is there anyone on the phone that I should know about, or? Okay. All right. Next meeting, April 20th, 2022, 5 p.m. here in Coralville City Hall. And I would, with that, are there any other comments, questions, items that anyone would like to share?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was very interesting. I'm happy to be here. All right. With that, I would entertain a
I
motion
will
to
make a motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.